Since my very first video about Stardom, I have had a request more than any other one. And since the beginning, I have made a bunch of history of videos. I did one on Queen's Quest, and even did one on the short-lived John. But I've never really gotten around to the one that got requested the most. And there's a simple reason for that. I just wasn't there. A lot of the stuff before 2016 is very hard to kind of rewatch in the future and know exactly what's going on because there's no current discussions about it and it's all in Japanese. There's no subtitles. So anything that really happened before 2016 takes me a long time to actually research and double check to make sure it's true, because I can kind of guess about what's happening in any given video, but I don't want to say what I feel like is happening unless I know for sure it is what's happening. I figured I'd put this off long enough though, so I decided to get some help on this one. I sent a message to Zalazi. A lot of you probably know him as one of the moderators of the Stardom Joshi subreddit. He's kind of like a Joshi historian of sorts. I decided to send him a message to kind of help me out on this one, to give me the overall of what happened in the beginning of Oedo Tai, because everything that happened after 2016, like 2016 on, I know because I watched it. So this video wouldn't have been able to be done without him, because I just wouldn't have known whether this stuff was true or not. I've been wanting to talk about Oedo Tai for a long time, so let's get to it. The origins of Oedo Tai are actually the story of two wrestlers joining their teams together to create it. In the beginning, there was the faction Kimura's Monster Army and an unofficial team run by ACT. You see, an important thing to know here is that ACT is actually a huge part of the history of Stardom. A lot of what we know and love about Oedo Tai and or Stardom in general was kind of led by ACT at the time. She was what a lot of people see now as like Jungle, like the ultimate underdog, someone who you always wanted to support. The problem with ACT though was that she was perpetually sick. Ever since a young age, she had had medical issues that would plague her all the time, and a certain thing kind of happened that also shortened her career even more. One of the major medical issues she had was a thyroid problem, which actually caused her to miss the second half of 2014. When she finally did come back, she came back with a vengeance. Not on anyone in particular, but as a natural disaster that was taking the promotion by storm. She had updated her appearance and theme song, and if you will allow me to put in my own personal opinion in one of these, she had one of the coolest looks in Stardom history. Upon her return, ACT had gotten widely popular, someone you always wanted to cheer for, but unfortunately her newfound popularity was not always a good thing, as a lot of people think it did lead to what we call the Stardom incident. When ACT returned though, there was a heel faction running things there. Kyoko Kimura, probably most known nowadays as Hana Kimura's mom, had a group where heel foreigners could thrive, a revolving door of people that would dominate. Alpha Female would hold the red belt during her time with them, and Kyoko would hold a tag belts multiple times. There were, without a question, the top heel faction and a force to be reckoned with. 2014 was rounding out, and Kimura's Monster Army was noticing how weak they were. They were no longer able to properly back up the name that they had given themselves, with most of the people that were given them power gone. Things wouldn't start clicking until January of 2015 at the 4th anniversary show, when ACT Yasukawa would join the Monster Army and change Stardom's history. On the anniversary show, ACT was not a part of the main event, but the show was about her, for the most part. She had 2 separate matches, she had multiple promos. The main storyline was even pretty much about her, of her joining Kyoko's army. The reason why I mention this is because, like I said before, this could have been one of the catalysts to what happened later in the Stardom incident, with Yoshiko feeling that ACT was overstepping her bounds, that she was taking part of the spotlight onto herself when she didn't deserve it. A 6-man tag match happened between the two teams, with Act Yasukawa's team losing and joining forces with the Kimura's monster army. Although they seemed to be in high spirits about the merger, the name didn't sit well with Act, which Kyoko allowed her to choose the name. So if you were wondering who named the group Oedo Tai, it was Act Yasukawa. Ever since childhood, she had been obsessed with samurais and the feudal or history era of Japan. Oedo Tai, in its most basic terms, means the Edo period of Tokyo. There really isn't too much to look into it. Just know that Act was kind of a nerd when it came to old feudal Japan, and that to her sounded a lot cooler. Later in the same show, Act had another match, a match for the Wonder of Stardom title against Mayu Iwatani. Making it a lumberjack match, Act, with the help of her new group, was able to win the title. Things were going great for Oedo Tai again. This was until something happened. Those of you who know about Stardom's history should know what happened next. Later on in 2015, the Stardom incident happened, resulting in Act Yasukawa being beaten severely by Yoshiko. Act would again need to leave wrestling because of medical reasons. After this incident, many women in the promotion would actually end up leaving it, and a lot of people thought this could be the downfall of Stardom altogether. Not many companies could come back from something this heinous and get in people's good graces again, but they persevered, and one of the reasons I believe they were able to change things was Oedo Tai. It wasn't until a certain someone who would come to Stardom to run things for Oedo Tai that Oedo Tai really started to get its flavor or personality. It was early 2016 and Kyoko Kimura was ready to retire. She had a long, successful career and was ready to leave. Leadership of Oedo Tai would need to go to someone, and surprisingly enough, she didn't pass it on to her daughter Hana, but instead named Kagetsu the new leader of Oedo Tai. With Kagetsu being named leader of Oedo Tai, not many people knew what was going to be the future for them, as Kagetsu wasn't exactly the well-known name that she was now. She was known, and she was known for her abilities, but she wasn't exactly known as the charisma powerhouse that she is today, aka one of the best wrestlers in the world. It seemed the worrying was unfounded though, as Kagetsu would do for Oedo Tai something pretty miraculous. She would turn it into one of the most popular groups in the world. Anybody who follows Joshi in any kind of light knows about Oedo Tai and knows about their antics and how amazingly entertaining they are. This was also the year that Kagetsu would end up wrestling for Stardom much more, as she didn't sign there once she got control of the group. She was still a freelancer technically, but she would pretty primarily be wrestling at Stardom, it becoming her #1 promotion. The golden years of Oedo Tai is a period of their history where things were pretty much as perfect as they can be. The members all clicked together, and Oedo Tai were the most entertaining aspects of Stardom every show pretty much. To some, Oedo Tai during these times is really what helped Stardom rebuild its reputation. The members of the golden period of Oedo Tai were Kagetsu as the leader, Hana Kimura as her partner, Chris Wolf as a crazy animal, Natsu Sumire as the hot cowardly heel, and Tam Nakano as the cute devious manager. There were some things that happened that could cause some conflict. Kagetsu went and added Natsu Sumire to the team without consulting anybody, which understandably ticked off Hana and Tam, as Sumire was a hot, sexy wrestler, and Hana and Tam considered that role being already filled by them two in the group. This would cause quite a bit of hilarious conflict between the three until they all decided to get along, and that is really when the golden years started. Oedo Tai had shifted gears to what they are now today. They had no longer been a revolving door for heel foreigners and were now a group of mainstays who were semi-powerful. They were no longer just special attractions, but a part of Stardom as a whole. During this time, Oedo Tai would actually be a dominating force on the roster, usually holding one of the two sets of multi-person titles. One of the longer runs of the tag belts is actually Kagetsu and Hana Kimura. It seemed like anyone who would stand up to Oedo Tai would be knocked back down, as not only were they major cheaters, some of the members were also dangerous wrestlers. We all know Kagetsu today as one of the most underappreciated or underrated wrestlers worldwide, regularly being considered one of the best women wrestlers in the world, but never actually being mentioned. It was easy to forget that during this time period, she wasn't the only dangerous aspect of Oedo Tai. Everyone else kind of had their own elements to bring to the team. Hana was still pretty green, but her moves were vicious. Sumire was a comedy act, but actually very decent in the ring, and Chris was speedy and hard to get a hold of. And if you could get the one-up on one of them, then you would have Tam hitting you with a board or grabbing your feet during the match. They were pretty unstoppable, that is, until Kagetsu became the team's worst enemy. Over the next 2 years, Oedo Tai would become a somewhat mountain to climb for everyone else in Stardom, always trying to get to the top but always getting knocked back down. They were very hard to beat for the reasons that I had mentioned earlier. That was until early 2018 when Kagetsu's eccentric ways kind of put the team in danger. You see, around the same time that Kagetsu was being named the leader of Oedo Tai, Io Shirai was going off and creating her own team, Queen's Quest, and almost like fate, the two would become one of the more rivalry factions of the groups. End of 2017 would find Momo Watanabe returning from injury after being out for most of the year. During her return, she would lose her match because of Oedo Tai's shenanigans. While this was nothing new, it was from Momo. She blew up and a war had started between Oedo Tai and Queen's Quest. Even worse was Kagetsu was so sure that she would win any kind of competition between the two teams that she had made some stipulations for a 5 versus 5 elimination match, where the last person eliminated from the match would have to leave their respective teams. Based on picks, it was decided that the last person for the teams would be Momo Watanabe and Tam Nakano. Kagetsu had made the match and stipulations, but it would only end in disaster. This was also the beginning of the end for the golden years of Oedo Tai. Shortly after, Chris Wolf would leave Japan because of visa issues, Tam Nakano no longer being a part of the group because of the elimination match, and Viper having turned her backs on them earlier to join Queen's Quest. Things were not looking good for Oedo Tai. They were looking very weak. Kagetsu would devise a plan, though, a plan that on paper could only benefit Oedo Tai. You see, currently at this time, Stardom had become less individual-based and more faction-based. Everyone is a part of one of the 3 factions, Oedo Tai, Queen's Quest, and Stars, or Stardom's army at the time. Because Oedo Tai was down to 3 members, Kagetsu, Hana, and Sumire, Kagetsu wanted a draft. She devised the draft and Stardom put it into place. She knew that because she had so many limited members, that it would only benefit her. She would be able to steal someone from another team. Usually Kagetsu's plans kind of backfire on them, like the elimination match, but this is one of the few times where her idea actually benefited Oedo Tai so much that it's laughable. Having won the first place pick, Kagetsu got back all of her teammates plus stole Hazuki from Queen's Quest. This would understandably cause some conflict internally once again as Kagetsu added someone without consulting her team. Hazuki and Hanakamura would have a little resistance towards each other until their singles match that year. Afterwards, they would become much closer and Oedo Tai would once again be a force to reckon with. Things seemed to be going great for them, with their team chemistry in sync and having many hard-to-beat people in their faction. It seemed like this was going to be Oedo Tai forever. Kagetsu running things, Hana being her partner and second command, Hazuki being their up-and-coming star, and Sumire doing Sumire things. That was until Hana decided to go on a Little World tour where she ended up in Mexico, spending a lot of time with Mary Apache. When she came back, she turned on Oedo Tai. In Kagetsu's last match of the 2018 5-Star Grand Prix, Hana interfered in her match, resulting in Kagetsu not only losing to Tam Nakano, but also not qualifying for the finals as a result. Hanakamura had had enough of Oedo Tai, claiming that they were weak and that she was going her own way. Once again, Oedo Tai was in conflict and weakened. Skipping ahead to 2019, where many things all happened in a very short time, Oedo Tai starts claiming they have a new member who is going to be joining their teams, even making the other factions at the time question if maybe they have a traitor on their side. After much teasing and mind games, the mysterious X appeared and was none other than Andres Miyagi, formerly known as Cassandra Miyagi. She had recently left Sendai Girls to become a freelancer, but knowing what we know now, it's clear that she left Sendai Girls to join Stardom. With as little amount of freelance work outside of Stardom she actually did in that time period and how short her freelance period was, it's very, very clear. And from what I know and my understanding of the Joshi world, leaving a company to go to another company unless it's previously approved on by both parties is considered a kind of a taboo thing, like not something that you should be doing. So that could have caused some kind of conflict between the two promotions. Again, the draft was upon them, and people wondered whether Oedo Tai was going to come out on top again this year. While they had a worse pick slot than last time, 3rd place, they actually had one of the better teams after. Kagetsu was able to get all of her members back and add Natsuko Tora from the very recently disbanded John. This draft was also where Kagetsu's obsession with Azumi began to cause some conflict in her own team, most noticeably Hazuki, who seemed very personally invested and insulted at Kagetsu caring more about Azumi than her. While so far this has only been some mild joking moments of Hazuki reprimanding Kagetsu, it could potentially lead to an inner conflict one day. Oedo Tai has shifted quite a bit from their introduction, from being a revolving door for heel foreigners to being one of the perfect teams in Stardom. A team that is so important that if they were to leave, it would be a noticeable gap in the entertainment. They went from having a couple strong regulars to having arguably the most sound and strong overall team in the entire promotion. While Oedo Tai was started by Kyoko Kimura and shaped into something more enjoyable by Act Yasukawa, I don't think it's wrong to say that what people remember Oedo Tai for is Kagetsu. Even though the foundation was already set, what Oedo Tai was and what they stood for was crafted and molded by Kagetsu. She took the reins of a team that, while popular, could have disbanded and it wouldn't have been a big deal, and turned them into a team that was just as much as Stardom as anything else is. Without Oedo Tai, Stardom would feel weird. It just wouldn't feel right. 5 or 10 years from now, when Kagetsu's gone and Stardom is still going, I don't think it would be an unsafe bet to say that Oedo Tai will still be there, and still be the promotion's most lovable rapscallions.